because he can help us with the rules. And Kevin is an attorney, and then Councilmember Styles. So today, what I want to do is our first meeting. Just lay down the reason why we're here, which is that resolution, and our task is to come up with something that works, that meets that Open Meetings Act, and we can collaborate as to how we want it to be and how elaborate or how we want to do it. We should be able to do that. So I invited Mr. Hurd Slade from IT to join us. He and I has have some conversation off and on, nothing major, but because he's the pro at this, I wanted him to talk to us some more, and then maybe we can then go from there and see whether we can come up with a plan. And with COVID, there's even a much more need for this type of platform more than anything now. And so to be able to do this is what we're hoping we can do. So I'm going to invite Slade to talk to us about some of the things we've talked about and how we think we can proceed with this. Thank you. Now we'll start my video too. I realized that. So,
all right, guys. And council members, Laura, thank you so much for that. So back in January, the council passed RS 2020-173, which was to work with Metro ITS to investigate options to implement a solution for council member engagement. That was around the end of January, and council members Suara and I had a brief conversation about this solution possibilities and just talking about the needs of the council in addressing exactly what she just explained there. Since that resolution was approved by the council, ITS went and investigated a couple of options. We looked at the city of Knoxville because the city of Knoxville council had the same type of requirement. And I think in a casual conversation with Councilman Rosenberg, we discussed that solution and that it utilized antiquated technologies that our organization wouldn't be able to support just because of it's written in such older technologies. The city of Knoxville has used it, and then I believe they've not used it as well. We've then met with vendors in the industry, in the community engagement space, who actually have solutions out there, one of which we're familiar with, another one that works with a current vendor of ours. High-level overviews were conducted, and we did determine that there were off-the-shelf solutions available. And then we unfortunately had to temporarily suspend, Councilmember Suara temporarily suspended the activities of this task force due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and certainly because we had to reallocate Metro ITS resources to support that shift in business priorities. Due to the experience that we began experiencing within COVID-19, we determined that constituency engagement was also important as well for council members. And we were struggling at the beginning with public hearings and such, and so the topic and the discussion about constituency engagement as well electronically was certainly brought to the table. We then tabled that topic, and after that was tabled, we came back in July, and she had scheduled this meeting, and so that's kind of where we are today. And to keep you abreast of what we've been working on, moving in kind of towards our next steps, but I wanted to kind of highlight and show you within this current cycle that we've been in. We've been working on phase one of our Legistar project, and this project is to implement the Granicus platform. Granicus, if you're not familiar, is the vendor that is supplying the Legistar, the Metro Legislative Management platform. And so we've been working on that, and we still continue to work on that project today, and we seek to go live with this initiative on October the 6th with phase one of this project, which includes, as you see, Legistar, meeting efficiencies with Legistar, VoteCast, iLegislate voting, standard reporting, Insight Public Legislative Portal, audio-visual integrations, which we already have been using since the fall of last year. Historic legislative data will be stored within Insight, and then also other historical legislative data that we've stored beyond the last term will be located within that platform as well. As we seek to deploy on October the 6th, we also are looking at Phase 2, which I want to highlight. One of the components of Phase 2, certainly important to this conversation, will be e-comment, and I'll get to that in just a moment. We have boards and commissions, the departmental legislation, so that will be departments integrating legislation, the submission. E-comment is right there. Our reporting, our historical legislative data will certainly continue to be deployed within Phase 2. Calling back to e-comment for just a moment, e-comment is the solution provided as a part of our Granicus platform within the current subscription. It engages the community and the constituency in the legislative life cycle in that they can actually go into a legislative item on the agenda and place a comment on that item. And if you recall, in our short experience with iLegislate, there was the ability to view the public comment within the agenda as you're viewing it in the meeting. So you can look at comments that are made up until the point that that agenda is published out to iLegislate. It also gives the constituency the ability to potentially register to come and speak at a public hearing if they so choose to. And just to kind of give you an idea of where we are with the current project and our workload, this timeline right here is certainly critical, and we've shared this with the steering committee back on July the 31st, and Councilmember Rosenberg was in attendance to that as well. We are at the point right now where we are getting ready to set up Legistar, set up the legislation in Legistar, and move forward through towards that October 6th go-live date. And so, circling back to why we're here today, the resolution was drafted and states that the ITS department was to assist the council in creating a plan to implement the online messaging system for council members consistent with the TOMA, or the Tennessee Open Meetings Act. And so, with that, I wanted to just kind of have a Q&A discussion with you guys and to gather just your thoughts on council member to council member engagement. What is your vision for that forum? How would you like to communicate amongst each other, and what would be those constraints within that forum that you would want to set up so that we can understand these requirements and go and search for solutions? And then if you're interested in entertaining constituency engagement this evening, I'd be glad to go through those requirements as well with you.
Thank you. We're supposed to be 4-member committee, and I thought that would give us like a broader perspective.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't want the committee to be too large because then it's not workable and you're having to deal with a lot. But I did want a diversity. Yes.
Councilmember Stiles is on as an attendee now.
Oh, great.
Made a panelist, please.
Oh, yes, please. Thank you. Okay, that.
All right.
Thank you.
Sorry for
all right. So, Councilmember Stiles, thanks for joining. I hope you were able to hear some of Slate's presentation. And so, in the beginning, I spoke about why I wanted this or what I thought. And so, at this point, I would welcome Councilmember Rosenberg and Councilmember Stiles if you want to talk about what your take is and if you want to address Slate's question. I think that might be a way to frame the conversation.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can.
Okay, so to me, it would be great if there was a way, if this was even like an IM system that is amongst ourselves, or where it's within the system, but we can ping each other to be able to communicate. I'm so sorry. I'm by the airport. Forgive me. An opportunity for us to be able to communicate that would still be in-house. So it's not us necessarily having a phone conversation, but I think it's imperative especially during this pandemic, there were so many things to be decided upon, and our hands are constantly tied. So is that a possibility? Could it be a Jabber platform that could be internal, Slade?
We could certainly investigate that as an option. All options are on the table at this stage of this discussion, because we really need to gather what are the needs of the council members, and so that's certainly going to be documented as a major need to be able to communicate internally, preferably with an instant messaging type of platform, and we'll vet that through and against the Tennessee Open Meetings Act and the Sunshine Law to make sure that it would remain in compliance, whatever the solutions or whatever my analysis would provide you with solutions, and that could be a potential option for us.
Dave?
Thanks, and thanks, Councilmember Suara, for putting this together, and Slade working on it. It is not just difficult and inconvenient to be able to, to have long meetings because we're waiting for the opportunity to talk to each other, but it doesn't give you any opportunity to, once you've learned something, follow up and do any research on it, because it's showtime. So this is great. I'm absolutely open to whatever, but the thing that keeps going through my head is a Slack type setup, if that's something that's archivable or can be read only for the public and writable for council, because that's the thing where we would be able to create new rooms as new topics come up and keep things organized. So I think it's important to be able to kind of categorize our conversations the way you see in a bulletin board system, so that it's not just one linear conversation and nobody having any idea what anybody's talking about after a point.
So one of the questions that I had to your point there, specifically with content creation, is who determines what topics are? Does the vice mayor determine what topics can be discussed? Is it at the council members' empowerment to create that, and is that moderated?
I feel like it would need to be some sort of a tree almost of topics where there are a few general topics, and then you can post new threads within that, and those can be moved or renamed or whatever by a moderator to keep things organized. But I feel like any number of things come up on a moment's notice. If it's the type of thing where we just need to be able to contact ITS or the council office and say, hey, we need a new topic to cover this subject that I want to start talking about with folks, and whichever way is easier. But I would say that it needs to be able to be, the ideas need to be able to come from council members and then placed in some sort of organized way.
Okay.
Something else that I do think it has to be council member initiated, because like I said, it's the idea of wanting to follow up, wanting to ask a question, needing a clarification, and not being able to even do just that. But something else that was also frustrating for me, and I don't know if there's a platform that would do all of that, or maybe we just keep that aside, is that we ran into a situation wherein we needed to do a letter to the mayor or something like that, and we had to draft a letter, and we cannot even do a Google form for everybody to collaborate on a letter. It's not even a legislation. So I have to draft it, send it to Anna send it to somebody else. They check in and they send it back. I just thought, who does that? That's so redundant. And so being able to create, I'm not saying legislation, but that's part of what we're thinking about, a way for us to have a conversation that allows us to do our work well without it being a problem. By the time we finished drafting the letter, it was not even applicable anymore. So I don't know if that could be part of it, but that's kind of what part of what I think we want to do with this, to be able to ask a question, start a conversation, ask it for clarification. We know we will not solicit each other's support. It's not to be able to say vote for this, but I should be able to say, Councilmember Rosenberg, where did you get the number 34% from? And he should be able to tell me 34% came from this place. That kind of conversation.
You're muted, Slade.
All right. Sorry about that. Does the forum allow for constituency engagement? Does it allow a constituent to speak on any of those topics, or maybe there is a topic that could be opened up to the public? Is that a requirement that's needed?
I think this is council member to council member, and e-comment will cover the constituency.
So do I.
Okay.
I want to agree there.
Good.
This has nothing to do with that.
Okay.
I think that could hem things up significantly.
But Dave, to ask you a question, because council members are having a conversation, then it will still be open to the public to see. Is that correct? They may not be able to participate and chime in into the conversation, but I think the only way we will avoid not being in jeopardy or not following the act is if it's where people can go back and look at it or see it at some point. It cannot be.
It's a lot like watching this meeting where you can absorb the conversation. Yeah.
Yes, it would be like that.
Awesome. And so do you have any other requirements that or needs for council member to council member communication on this topic solution?
Nothing else comes to mind for me.
Okay. All right, cool. Do we want to segue into a conversation about constituency engagement while we're in this space?
I think so.
Okay. All right. Perfect. So I think one of the things that we identified just in this conversation was that, we need a council member to council member forum, and it's strictly for that purpose. And we know that the constituency certainly has an opinion and certainly wants to contribute to the process. And so, as I spoke in phase 2 of the project, we're delivering on a platform for that. And so I'm sure many requirements will be fulfilled with that solution, but we want to round everything out and make sure that we deliver a complete solution and not just a part of what we need. In thinking about constituency engagement, what are some of the ways that you guys want to engage with constituents? And maybe I could kind of give you an example or a real-life business case that we face annually, and that's through the budget process and trying to get elicit information from the community on some of the projects and some of the initiatives that the city wants to accomplish. Would those types of topics be things that you would want to create on this? I just want to get the thought process going there of what kind of conversation do we want to have?
I think if I could pop in really quickly, in terms of constituent engagement, I feel 2 things. One, the majority of which is on us to speak with, I know, Pat, you're countywide, but so hindered right now. And as it pertains to constituency engagement, if it's something that needs to come from the council office, i.e. budget, or something that's, a citywide situation, maybe it's, maybe there's a website that they can go and get the information. They themselves can go and they can see everything that they need. Because right now that's not the case. We don't have a one-stop shopping for everything. And then there's multiple people coming up with informationals, and I think it's very confusing. But a website might be a good thing for that.
I think for me, as somebody, like you said, who is a county-wide, but it will be very useful during the budget process, because I've always wanted us to look into community-based budgeting and to be able to get community inputs in budgeting process. I can see how something like that would work if you're trying to gather information that way. But it might not be possible for district level conversation, but I don't know how IT works. Maybe there could be, maybe, I don't know, maybe a district person might have a conversation and said, if you live in this district, maybe you can leave your comments there. maybe for a zoning thing. I don't know. I don't know much about the district level, but I can see where on county-wide, for me especially, I think on budgeting and major things like that, to be able to say, okay, let's have all the responses or thoughts or questions.
Mm-hmm. So we're looking at a county, kind of an approach to the entire city, county, and then also maybe a location-based type of engagement as well, to where we engage at the district level.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I was going to create my own website for the district. So it would be great if you guys were going to do it instead.
Okay. So are you seeking to gather quantifiable data from the constituency as well? Are you looking for any types of solutions that would help you gather numbers so that you can, surveys are a high response type of tool. And so we've certainly attempted those in the past. I know in my experience here, we've done a couple of them internal to the council, and I think we did one out to the city, but we do get high response rates with surveys as people. They're easy to fill out by people, and so I don't know if that was an important component to what you guys are looking for.
Are you referring to if we wanted to do a survey to put out to the public as a whole, say, hey, how do you feel about 1% increase, and then people just be able to log on from wherever, whether it's the county-wide site or the district site, so the site itself will be capable of polling and surveys whenever we might need it.
We'll look at a couple of options within the realm of surveys to see what kind of solutions are available there. I can't tell you whether it would be a website or a form that's emailed. I don't know what that level of the solution provides, but we'll certainly take that information and I'll vet through that as well in my analysis.
I would suggest that be focused more on open-ended survey than polling. I mean, any polling is,
perfect.
Like the things on a news website. It's just a matter of who passes it around.
Right.
It's really unscientific and can really skew a conversation in a bad direction. But getting input, proactive input, I think is.
I think that's a good point. Sometimes we engage with the constituency. We look for kind of a very in the beginning stages of conversations when it comes to different conversations that the community wants to have. Are we wanting to set it up to where the community can create their own topics of conversation that surface up to the council, or do we want to govern and direct what conversations by those topics being created from the council office out to the public for them to specifically focus on this topic? Or if they have a concern that they want to lift up, how would you take that information?
I would like both ways. For me, I don't know about my colleagues, but I think that having the constituent raise an issue of concern that we can then, that's how you know what's going on, that's how you know what to address. And so I think it can go both ways, and I wouldn't mind that as long as it doesn't require us to be on it 24/7.
Right. Yeah.
Because then you open it up and then people expect you to respond to everything they put out. So there's got to be like a clear expectation in that regard. But I wouldn't mind. I don't know. I'm interested in what the others think.
Yeah. Now,
it sounds like, we're really adjacent to Hub at this point in the conversation and the type of feedback that comes in through Hub. And I wish that there was a way, and I don't know, it's a much bigger conversation about ways to merge, because, a lot of the things that come in through Hub are just, routine service requests, fill a pothole, but other things are bigger things that really border on the type of things that we hear from constituents about larger topics. And
I think that's a good point to bring up, in that as a part of this analysis and a part of the deliverable that you guys will receive as a product of this meeting, the solutions that we advise or we would provide, we're gonna certainly look to what we already have in house and already have established, and that the community is already versed with and understands how to convey information through that channel. We wouldn't want to interrupt that. I think one of the points that I brought up earlier was that we can scope this also to just legislative items. We can choose to create that community engagement and say, we want to hear about the legislative item level. That way, maybe it doesn't remove that human interaction that you as the elected official get to have with that constituent, because you don't want to be replaced by a computer necessarily, unless that is the stuff that's eating eating up your time. But we want it to work for you, not against you in your job as well. So some people, different council members in my experience, have had different philosophies on that. So I'll leave that to you guys.
Whatever we do, I want it to be simple. I don't want it to make things more convoluted. The whole effort here should be to streamline and not to create multiple avenues to be bombarded, because we already are bombarded.
Absolutely.
So I think as we talk about constituency engagement, whatever that is, it is a one-stop shopping platform for them. Whatever it is they want to talk about, they do it there.
Right.
And
so within that, what I'm trying to understand is, what does that one-stop shop look like? How? Let's build a scope for that so that we can understand, what does that engagement look like? And I certainly think that we're starting to hone that down by mentioning Hub and talking about some of these other channels that we already have created. Not replacing those unless it makes sense to. And so I think...
To Council Member Rosenberg's point, how difficult would it be if the Hub is already collecting complaints? Would it be to just have an icon where you could, suggest a spot for legislative concerns, or perhaps there's a way that specific means if they haven't, found our email or whatever, there's a way that it could get sent to the correct council person. But it is right there in Hub. I know I've talked to them about including additional information, and what I had asked for, it wasn't going to cost a lot of money. I think this solution makes the most sense.
Okay. All right. Well,
yeah, I think for me, I will look. This started as something just for councilmen, and I think that's the priority. But I think if it allows us to upgrade and do better with our constituents, I think that's where we're going. So if we're talking about something like that, I would personally prefer to keep Hub for complaints, for the potholes, for things that needs to be fixed. That's what I will keep Hub for. But then I would direct our constituents to this other platform, which is where we will be having our conversation. We might as well see their conversation on the side, because it can inform our conversation as well. And so I would want to keep the legislative conversation in the same place, at the same platform, rather than us having a conversation here and having to look in Hub to see what is there. And so that's how I would, if we're going to do that, I'd rather keep Hub doing what Hub does, which is mostly for complaints. That's will be the way that I think I would prefer a structure if I'm building.
Okay.
All righty. So we had a good conversation, the three of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think what I wanted to do was just get us started. The problem is that if you don't start, you don't move anywhere. I know the IT department is busy and they've got all these things they've got to roll out. Slade has already told me that they may not be able to give us something until probably October. But I wanted to at least see if we have a meeting of the minds in what we're looking for. And I'm hoping that maybe the next thing we want to do is maybe bring some of our colleagues into this conversation I don't know how we're going to do that. I'm open to, do we want to ask them to fill a survey, or do we want to do another meeting with them? But I do think that we need more thoughts into that. The other thing that I think will also need to be done will be for Slate to present us with the options that can meet any of these things that we talk about, and then we can take it next. So I'm open to how you think we should proceed from here, because we need to keep this moving.
Absolutely.
It ought to have happened yesterday.
How many other people are we missing?
It's four of us, and it, you know, I started just on my own with Slade after the resolution, but I realized that, you know what, this is what I want to see happen, but if it's going to work for everyone, let's bring others. And then we decided to bring Councilmember Rosenberg because of his expertise on all the rules. and Councilmember Roten for his being a lawyer with the state and all of that, and then you working with the district and everything. And we thought between the four of us, we can have a diverse opinion that represents most of the people on council. Councilmember Kevin.
Kevin. Oh, okay.
Yes.
So I think that we should talk to Kevin about what we discussed tonight and what our thought is, and I think that we should all be in agreement on what this could possibly be before we start bringing in everyone else and a gajillion different ideas to the table, only because when asked who wants to be on the committee, it's the four of us, and if we open it up, I think it could become a bit of a mess without having something set to share with them as an idea.
Yep. If I could also kind of provide some insight on what I'm prepared to do, if it's this body's wish, is we certainly are going to be working. First priority is to get the Legistar platform, iLegislate, everything in place for October the 6th. In that time, I'll be performing this analysis. If you guys want to reconvene towards the end of September or even after the 6th of October, we could have a presentation at that time with this analysis and proposed solutions. We could bring Mr. Roten in on that discussion, and certainly anybody else that might want to be interested at that point, because I think we'll be setting the stage at that point for kind of setting expectations and the vision that you guys have crafted, and certainly how we seek to accomplish that vision for you guys. And I'm sorry, you're muted.
So
how soon can you have the analysis done? Because I think we can take a look at the analysis from what Joy is saying, have a conversation amongst ourselves, decide what we want, where we want to go based on that analysis, and then by the time we bring you back in, then we can bring the other council member. But if we get the analysis ahead of time, we can have a separate conversation, just the four of us, to come to a consensus.
Do we want to, I think we could probably deliver mid-September. Okay. Is that
That's
okay?
workable.
All right. So we'll look. I'll be speaking with you. We could probably have something sooner, but I want to give myself and anybody else that might be working on this initiative with me to give us enough time to put our heads together and determine what kind of effort it's going to take. And we'll certainly. I'll be in touch with you and Mr. Rosenberg and Ms. Stiles in that process.
Dave, does that sound like a plan? Because I'm thinking that before we make a grand presentation to everybody, that we as a committee have the opportunity to at least look at that analysis first and see our preferences.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. And yeah, it's just, I think the only thing is not going too far down the line where Slade ends up duplicating a lot of stuff, but otherwise I agree. Yeah, we should get to a point where we have something solid to present, so we have some guardrails around the suggestions that are to come.
Absolutely.
All right, that makes sense. And I don't want us to go all the way into October, November because we need this thing now. So,
Yeah.
so the sooner we can have it, if we can get it by the middle of September, then it gives us time. By the time you guys are ready by October 6th, we should have had our own meeting.
Yeah.
Then we can come together by that time. So.
And see, that will also fall in alignment with phase 2 of of this project, which would be delivering some of what you guys are discussing today. So it does all work together. This timing does. Awesome.
All right. Sound like a plan to
thank
me.
you for thank you for pulling information together.
Yes, absolutely, certainly.
Thank you, Slade.
You guys enjoy your Friday evening.
Yeah, thank you all for joining us on a Friday evening. So
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, have a nice weekend.
Yeah.
Bye.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.org.